Everybody, thank you very much for making it here today. I'll leave you all on mute for the moment, but we'll open it up at the end so that you can ask Jez directly if you want to. As I said, questions in there for the moment, and I will present those to Jez at the end. Jez, welcome to the, I was going to say to the show, but welcome to the Kerfuffle Partner profile. And let's just talk about what you're here today to introduce to people. Do you want to just give an overview to everyone so they understand?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose we'll be known better as Agent OS, although probably even better as Let 'em See. That's who we are. So that's where we've come from. But we've been working for the last 12 months or so on building a standalone application to really galvanise what we do best, which has always been around accounting and accounting administration. And so we've been working hard to get an app out the door that allows non-software clients or CRM software clients to work with us and get the benefits of our accounting automation. So Agent Pay conceptually was formed around the idea of having third parties access our accounting system without actually having to use the CRM. So I mean, that's kind of where it came from. We obviously know there's another player in this space, but there hasn't really been anybody else coming into it. And I can kind of understand why, having gone through the fun and games and complexity of putting this all together and jumping through various FCA-laid hoops. But Agent Pay is now live and available for anybody to use. And is designed to automate the reconciliation of client accounts, preparation of payments, preparation.
So I was going to say, so talk us through what's its purpose. You know, what's the problem out there that you're solving for agents, for lettings agents?
Well, I think client accounting is a relatively complex discipline anyway. Not everybody has access to a fantastic system, but those that do, it's still a massive time sink. And I think if we've learned anything over this sort of lockdown period, it's perhaps about valuing time, and the amount of time that if you're able to sit back and strategize more, the value you get from that as a business principal or senior member of staff is huge implications for the benefit of a business. And accounting quite often, certainly in the smaller letting agencies, takes away a lot of the business principal's time. And so having this as a product effectively takes away the vast majority of the client accounting work that's required of either an accountant in the office or indeed the business principal, which is quite often where that comes from.
So is there a sweet spot that this is for at the moment? Do you see this as being better for some sized agencies or some niches better than others? Or
I mean, I'd be an idiot to say it's only for a certain type of person. It undoubtedly is suited to small to medium sized lettings businesses or estate agencies that have a lettings side to their business that has a small to medium-sized portfolio. So let's say up to 500 properties is probably the sweet spot, because in most of those businesses, the business principal is heavily involved in the accounting process. In larger businesses, it still has huge value, and then no question about it. But far more resources are thrown into accounting departments, obviously on large multi-branch companies, and so maybe there isn't the feeling of a necessity. But for me, and I am biased completely, that anything that takes away administrative burden from a business has got to be a positive thing. And client accounting for most businesses has at least one resource putting an enormous amount of time into it, and that's what the app takes away.
That's really interesting. So there's one element there that jumps out to me, and one of the things we've obviously been interviewing a huge amount of successful agents, both UK based and Australian based. And one of the recurring themes comes back time and time again is that it's not just about, concentrating on the most dollar productive activities. It's actually that if somebody can do something equally as well or even better for a lower pound, the dollar rate, whatever you want to call it, than you are currently doing at the moment, then that should seriously be looked at. And ultimately, the principal's time's got to be, by definition, the most valuable of all, hasn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, in most businesses, the principal is getting heavily involved in some shape or form. That might just be as part of separation of duties, which is just, you know, should be standard business practice for any lettings business, but it's not always possible, certainly in the smaller ones. And so you have a business principal who's you know, when possible, maybe in the evening, accessing a bank account, uploading a set of transactions into their chosen CRM software or no software at all, allocating them to the appropriate tenants, reconciling them, and then preparing payments, which they may or may not do at the same time. And it's dangerous to have the same person doing all of that process. I mean, it's just not good practice. Two, it's an enormous amount of time. A lot of businesses are working the day behind with accounting. Certainly, you know, with our own software clients, typically you're reconciling yesterday's transactions because you don't want to have the issues with you know, transactions appearing in your bank account today, which means you're always sort of chasing your tail. But in the advent of open banking, which is really where this sort of started to come from us, it means you've got access to real-time transactions inside an app. The app will auto reconcile those transactions and prepare payments for you. So you're in a situation as a business owner where, you know, if I talk loosely about what the agent pay service does, if you log into your app, you know, having your breakfast in the morning, you should see immediately all your transactions inside the app because it's connected. Your client account is connected via open banking. So you're just plugged into the app. So your transactions are already there. The system and the service reconciles those transactions and allocates them. It will undoubtedly, as is always the case with client accounting, have one or two odd things that appear. And so there's a full messaging system that sits inside that system, so two-way messaging. So there's obviously a team that sits behind the app who are there to deal with the oddities that can occur in client accounting as well. And so there's a period of time where we say from 3 p.m. At 3 p.m. we will pay everybody who's got a balance paid. So the app will then pay those landlords, contractors, tenants, deposits, if that's relevant as well. And so there is a window of opportunity for a business owner, for an accounts person to go in and retain a little control over the client account.
It's that sanity check, it's the control element that many will want, isn't it? So
absolutely, that's right.
Really have that with this, yeah.
The fear that we know that the not the kickback, but the feedback we get, the fear is there of accounts people, of business owners, that, you know, what happens? Am I giving up control of the account? And the answer is no. You know, what you're doing is taking advantage of some fairly obvious automations when it comes to rent collection and automation, reconciliation, and preparation of batch payments. If you didn't have to do that in your business, the question to ask is how much time would you be doing something else, perhaps more proactively in the business. But you still have control. So there's a pause button, if you like, on all transactions. So if you're uncomfortable with a balance that's sitting there about to be paid out to a landlord, you can pause that, and the app will not pay anybody who's got a paused transaction. So you're keeping control of the movements of money in the client account, but doing it via an app conveniently on your phone or tablet or sitting at a desktop. It's an app that works in all environments. And so the real point of difference, I suppose, in what we're bringing to the marketplace is that this is designed to plug into an agent's existing client account.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so agents don't have to give up their client account with this.
No, and there are two sides to the debate on this. Obviously, we probably all know the main player in this space, and there is an obligation for you to give up your client account. You have to give it up. You move everything. I think it's a NatWest account that they use. This is PayPal, and I see the positives to that argument. But you do have to give up that account. So you have to take your tenants through a new journey. So your tenants have now got to go and allocate payments elsewhere to a different bank account, you don't have control over that bank account. That's not your bank account. So you lose a little bit of control. And I think the onboarding is probably a little tougher in that respect. And that's just my opinion of it. From our position, we've gone to the other side of that, which is, for those agents who don't want to give up their client account, who want to make the transaction, the change as seamless as possible. It's a question of connecting via open banking your client account to the app. That's what we have to do as far as onboarding is concerned. So cost-wise, there's no setup costs associated with getting data in. That's part of the service, getting data across, because there's a low level of data that needs to come across in order to be able to manage the transactions.
So in my naive world, of course, where we both came from the CRM space, data conversion per se was something really, difficult, really horrible. In my head again, I would be thinking actually with accounts it would be even more of a problem. But from what you're saying, that perception is wrong in this case, isn't it?
It is, because we don't need everything. All we're doing is administering the client account. So in order to administer the client account and to help with reconciliation, we need to know the bare bones. We don't need to know everything. So we need to know, obviously, the property address. We need to know the landlord's full address and the tenancy details, i.e. the tenancy dates, the dates the rents are due. Once we've got tenancy schedules in place, once we've got that information, obviously the tenants' details themselves, providing we have all of that and it's provided to us in a very simple format, we reckon the turnaround for the average size, and if somebody came to us with thousands of properties, it would of course be different. But for the average size agent with a portfolio of say 300 or 400 properties, we're looking at sort of 7 days from getting hold of that data and having them live.
So it's just because it's a much flatter conversion, isn't it? There's not loads of interrelated, tables and everything else there. Yes, you've got to get it right, but it's not obviously that huge interrelational database that you get with whole CRM packages. That let's face it, everything across, isn't it? Diary integrations, property, assets, all sorts of things like that. You don't have to worry. That makes perfect sense.
We need to know. This service is effectively, rather than logging into your own online banking app, you could log into Agent Pay and see your client account inside of it. If you think of it like that, in fact, is it worth showing you? I'll do a quick screen share just to give you an idea. Where are we?
You'll have to do it. My Zoom update has disappeared all on my buttons. So thank you.
I've lost all buttons as well. So equally confused. So you're seeing that now?
Let's just have a look. Can someone just give us a shout out if they can see it? I'm just looking at, as I said, you're viewing Jez's screen. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, okay. And anybody can go and do this. So if you go to agentpay.app, at the bottom, scroll down to the bottom of the screen and the website, sorry, and you'll see there's an area to just go and try the account. It's in fact the same one that I'm using here. So you'd effectively see the screen, hit login, and it takes you into the app.
Okay.
So it's fully responsive. So I mean, if you're
it's truly mobile. Literally, you're sat anywhere. You can just jump onto your iPad or your phone or Samsung or whatever it is, and just
absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. So this is what you're logging into. But if I go into unreconciled transactions, I'm not going to dwell too much in here. But this is your bank account. These are the transactions that have occurred within it, and this is what the system's going to be reconciling. This is what the app's going to be reconciling. And you've got the messaging system that sits here. So any queries that you've got that sit around a transaction in the app are very easily dealt with by sending a message through to the team who'll look at that for you. And the idea is you'll log in the morning, you'll have a look at what's going on. The system will be reconciled. So you'll be able to see what's been reconciled, what's sitting unreconciled. And then you have a list of outgoing transactions. And this is where you have the pause button. So we can see we've got a couple of landlords sitting here. And if I thought, well, Jennifer Jones, I don't know what that amount of money is, I'm unsure, we can preview the invoice by clicking on the invoice button. Or if I'm not happy, I can choose to pause a payment. And all
Okay.
that does is uploads, it updates the status, and that's on hold. So 3 p.m. the system automates our payments out. Anything that's on hold will stop. It won't go anywhere. It will just sit there until you choose to unpause it, and that's where you get the controls over the app itself.
We've got a few questions coming through, Jez, if that's okay, from Facebook, and I'll deal with the Q&As on here as well. Deb Franklin, hi Deb, obviously expert in this field. She asks, how much time do you think it would save a business with an average portfolio of 150?
Wow. Thanks for the question. That's a really difficult one. Yeah, I know. I'm going to wave a finger, virtual finger, although my screen background is making it disappear. It's a really tricky one, because that wholly depends on what processes that particular agency has in place and what automations. If we're talking about an agent that's, and I still see them now going out and about with software, agents using spreadsheets, then it's going to be an inordinate amount of time. I mean, it's going to be hours of time that it saves people. If people are using, let's say, Agent OS, Repeat, we're both there for a bit. The more advanced client accounting software, it'll be less time, but it's still going to be a significant amount of time. It's going to, we're talking hours of preparation, but it does come down to what the process of that agency is. If they've got the ability to upload a bank statement into an existing accounts package, then it's a question of, okay, well, the transactions are already there, so nobody's having to type those in, so you've already got a time saving. But then if I don't have to automatically link them anymore by using an app, then all of a sudden I've got time saving in that respect. If I don't have to prepare payments and don't pay people individually, then again, there's a significant time saving there. But that depends whether you're using the back system or whether you're paying people individually. And if you've ever tried to individually pay 100 landlords, that's a good hour and a bit's work. So it's a difficult one to answer that.
So basically, I mean, everyone who is a different case. Deb does say, if it was, if they had none, but I think really what we need to do is get in contact with yourselves. You'll be able to look at the processes they currently have in place and
absolutely,
talk. Expect, isn't it? As ever, it tends to be a localized kind of issue, doesn't it? There. The other thing is, she just asked as well, does it auto receipt to tenants?
Yeah, so it's within the app. Absolutely, but remember that this is the challenge around the apps, is that we're reconciling the rent that comes in to what is essentially a tenant ledger that's sitting behind the system. According to the rent due dates, we know when that rent demand should be run. So if there is a balance of money that's due from the tenant to the landlord, and we've reconciled a rent that's been paid into the tenant ledger, then the system will move that money from the tenant ledger to the landlord ledger, and the landlord then will have a balance to get paid, net of obviously fees and maintenance deductions and the like. Think of it simply that it's reconciling what happens in the client account. So a lot of traditional software systems, a lot of traditional CRM software systems, OS is different and Repeat different, because we're driven by the bank statement upload. So a lot of those other software systems work on a hypothetical transaction, if you like. So the systems will present you with, this is what should have happened, and now you need to check off what did actually happen on your bank account. I think more advanced software solutions take the bank statement as their point of truth and say, this is what happened in the client account, and now give me a list of everything that didn't happen, which is a slightly different way of looking at it. What an app like AgentPay is doing is just reconciling what's actually happened in the client account. So if we take the example that perhaps that Deb was referring to there, if a tenant pays their rent early, so there is no rent due yet, if you like, the app will still reconcile the transaction that comes in on the bank statement to that tenant's ledger. But all that means is the tenant has a credit balance sitting on that ledger. And when the rent becomes due, and all these rent demands are automated, the system will automatically then move that money from the tenant ledger to the landlord ledger in order to have a balance to pay the landlord. But you wouldn't be able to pay the landlord before the rent's due. Yeah, if that makes any sense at all. It doesn't just automatically move it, irrespective of whether the rent's been paid or not.
No, of course. And I mean, you touched on obviously the CRM element there. Deb does also ask, does this work alongside any other CRMs?
Um, Obviously, it works alongside our own. That would be bonkers if it didn't. So we have, we have plenty of clients who use our sort of outsourced accounting service, and the app is really an extension of that. But the purpose of the app is to extend this beyond our software system. Is it connected to any CRMs other than Agent OS at the moment? No, it's not. Do we want to in the future? Absolutely. It is. You know what the industry is like, Simon. I hope that people will, our peers out there will see it for what it is, which is a tool to assist their clients with. Because I love the idea that via APIs we would be able to ping back balance information, perhaps, but certainly transaction information from the app back to other CRMs. It doesn't exist at the moment. I've had a couple of very, very loose conversations with people about it, and anything that's linked to financial transactions sends developers particularly into all sorts of weird fear positions, because you're talking about potentially changing balances or creating transactions, and it's quite a scary thing to do. Will we do it? I hope so. But it does exist at the moment only with Agent OS, because the Agent OS
challenge,
finance engine is driving it.
The weight there is on other people to see this, to get beyond competitive instincts and actually see it as a benefit if they don't provide it, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. I mean, no one else is connecting in the industry at the moment, and it's been a bit of a bone of contention for some. I'd like to think that, sort of something I hope by our reputation anyway, that we're seen as a very open business in that respect, and it's something we definitely want to do. There's absolutely no reason, hypothetically, that it could also be white labeled into other companies' offerings. So it doesn't necessarily even need to be connected to other CRM. It could be a white labeled service using our engine.
How wonderfully sluttish! That is fantastic. So you could, you're putting yourself out there.
I don't know what you mean.
As long as people use it, you don't care what it says on it.
Did I say that?
I do like it. I like it, Jez. I like the honesty. Let's get down to brass tacks with it. I mean, it sounds fantastic. Is it stupid money, or are you? Is this a service?
I hope not. We've had a good look, and it's worth me saying that we've been doing this sort of outsourced accounting for a long time.
That's right.
Good for what, 13, 14 years or so. So it's not something that we've just suddenly jumped at and thought we'll give it a go. It's been around for a while, and obviously that's at a price service, and that's traditionally been based on a percentage of rent roll, which is a known fee. But we've approached this differently for Agent Pay. So in very simple terms, it's incredibly transparent. In fact, you can, on the website, again, if you scroll down to see the test app, you'll be able to see the pricing calculator. It should be live on the website now. And it's very simple. It starts at £3.50 per property, and then that scales down the larger the portfolio is. So the bigger the portfolio, the less you pay per property, and that's really just trying to keep it with a reasonable scale behind it.
Yeah, as you expect, you get the economies of scale from that. That sounds. And how does that strikes me as being cheaper than some of the other solutions out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to name the specific one, but when you're talking about percentage of rent roll, I think there's a fairly significant difference, particularly the larger you are. So there is a minimum cost, I should add, to the service, which is £199. It's all plus VAT.
Thank God you got that technicality. I didn't want a PPI claim or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I suddenly realised. Which will give you around about 60 properties, I think. Up to 60 properties is £199, and then you pay £350 per property thereafter. And that, the bigger you are, the less that is. So the calculator is currently on the agentpay.app website, but I think working with your magicians at Starbury will be putting it into the Agent Pay page on the
that's great. That brings it to life, doesn't it? So that anyone will be able to go in there and type that information.
I've just realised I'm still sharing my screen, so I could actually show you this, couldn't I? So hang on.
There you go. You've got the power, Jez. As I said,
I know.
I've
I always
been-
forget that when I'm in your presence, mate. There we go. So it is live. Agent by price calculators. So let's say, what was Debbie saying? It was about, they're franking 160 properties. So if I type 160, so that's rather than 350, that's at 329 per property. It's 528 per month.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, and obviously that I go to 500, that's now at 288. So it changes according to the size of the portfolio. And that, I think, is the approach we've taken. The issue that we have, I'll stop sharing my screen now, you can have it back. The issue that comes alongside that is effectively open banking costs and transaction costs. The more transactions there are, the more expensive it is. So it has to scale alongside that. But we've chosen to do that as a, if you like, a fixed cost per property rather than a percentage of rent roll. We just feel that that's the better way to do it.
I'm just dealing a couple more of questions here. Anton's just reiterating as well what the key differences between yourselves and the other companies in this space. I think you've segued that quite well. I mean, I think the key one is as well is that open banking, isn't it, really?
The open banking is a big part of it. And it is a key difference because it doesn't exist in the other systems. And that's simply because we've chosen to try and work with agents and their existing client accounts rather than forcing you to give up the client account.
Which is really
that's the simplest way of trying to, if you want to highlight the difference between the services. We're relatively new coming into this app-wise, but we've been around a long time. But the major point of difference is that it's your bank account, it's your responsibility. Ultimately, we're automating your account rather than you giving up your account and letting an app automate something else.
Okay.
And that's really the core difference.
Okay, got another question here from Claire. How will this work when the client money protection regulation comes in and banks are demanding individual client accounts for every landlord?
You've got it's because it's connected via open banking.
Yeah. It's
connected to your bank account. So that affects the likes of PayProp, for example. It will affect, I think, Let's Pay. You've got on your website as well, and they're already setting themselves up on that basis, I think. But they're not connecting to your bank account.
Yeah.
So through open banking, you plug in your bank account. So you're in control. You choose the structure. You choose how you want to work. If you've got 1 million accounts, that's a stupid number. Why would I pick that? You could plug in 1 million accounts. Most companies are going to have 1, 2, 3 bank accounts, and you're able to plug that in. But it's your bank account that you're plugging in. It's not providing a bank account. So it's a different approach.
Understand. Okay. And she just asked as well, how does that work for HMOs? Is it still 350 a property?
Yeah, it's based on the individual. What's the best way of describing this for an HMO? If you imagine that each room is a roomlet, and each room therefore has an individual rent transaction, it's going to be by room.
Okay.
So a property would be considered, if you're an HMO with 10 rooms in it, each with its own rent being paid, you're going to be talking about 10 rooms, 10 properties. Okay.
And FAM says, how are the rules set up for each property connecting it to each beneficiary?
Sorry, say that again. Missed that.
How are the rules set up for each property connecting it to each beneficiary? I'm
not sure I understand the question there. It's a bit of an odd one. Property to each property has an owner. Each owner is obviously a landlord. Each property will have each property has a tenancy. Each tenancy is linked to both the landlord and the tenants. So the tenant is connected via the tenancy, which effectively sits off the sits off the property. Yeah, I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Well, we'll get some clarification about that afterwards. And we've got Saranjit Gill who says, we won't save on our client account banking transaction charges. I take it that's a question rather than a statement, is that?
It depends who you bank with, but theoretically you would. We were doing some calculations yesterday around this. So it's particularly related to the payments out. If you're collecting rents via things like Go Cardless or DD, then you've got individual transactional charges, which we think we're able to avoid with some clever technology that's coming soon, actually, in regards to setting standing orders up for tenants. So there's some clever stuff coming as well that will plug in, which should get rid of the charging issues. In terms of batch payments out, theoretically, you should avoid those.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned, I think, really detailed this there. If this is ready to go now, and he said, and in terms of just getting up and going, obviously reach out on those links that we're going to send out on the email following on, or I've just posted the book a demo link that you've got on your website as well. And
yeah, amazing.
And as you said, it's ready to go from now, really.
Yeah, for demonstrations, both myself and Johanna, who will be fielding the demos. That's been going on for some time already, but I suppose this is the first time we've really pushed it out there via you guys. There's obviously the website, so any inquiries that come via Kerfuffle. There's obviously the Kerfuffle deal that's out there at the moment, which we should make sure we mention.
So for everyone here.
Yeah, so we're obviously keen to get people on board. So for Kerfuffle members, register via the Kerfuffle site, and there is the first 2 months free access to the service. So you'll be able to get the service, use the service, and with 2 months free if you're a Kerfuffle member. So pretty simple.
That's a
nice bonus.
Thank you very much for that. That's
pleasure.
That's great. So everyone, I would get on that. I know you're already fending off lots of calls at the moment, Jez. It's unsurprising. Obviously, it sounds there. Just one question, I suppose, just to finish on, Jez, unless another comes. Obviously, you've been providing your core CRM system for the last 15 years. Why move to a finance app like this? Was it just because you saw there was a real need there?
No. Was there an opportunity in the space? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We've seen what PayProp have done, and I think the general consensus is that it's a good service once it's up and running. But there was nothing, I suppose, fitting the people who don't want to give up their client account or the control of it, and they have quite a let's call it a strong price point. So we want to bring something to the marketplace that would be the same but different, based on our experience. But I think if we talk about the wider industry, if you ask me, would I build CRM again from in today's marketplace? The answer would almost certainly be no. I can't see why you would attempt to build a system that attempted to do everything brilliantly ever again. I just don't think that anybody in their right mind would have the appetite to do that. Or
Jez, to use a Lord of the Rings parlance, which I like too often, that no longer can you have one ring to rule them all. Yeah?
I think that's a good one. Yes. I think that there's a reality as to what's happening in the marketplace. There's a huge amount of prop tech out there. Almost all of it is specializing in niches. It's specializing in one particular, sorting out one part of either an agent's journey or a customer journey somewhere, and trying to do it absolutely brilliantly. We, from an OS point of view, for a good 12 months now, have been playing in the app space. So a lot of our development now, whilst core development continues with the CRM, and significantly so, we're starting to move into an app space now, using some very clever tools that Amazon have provided us with. We have a full-time app developer, full-time API developer now, who focus purely on building apps. So Agent Pay is obviously a standalone app. We have Agent Watch, which is our data piece. The app is currently being built at the moment, which will become standalone as well. So that's a data piece for OS customers. We've got a negotiator app just coming out of testing. We've got property management app in specification, and an owner's app. Say again.
You're showing off now, aren't you?
Well, I think the point I'm trying to make is, the question being, why an app? Why now? I think the reality is that the future is going to be made up of a lot of specialist products that do every part of that agent journey brilliantly. And I think it's very hard to do that without whacking great big resources to do that for an entire CRM system.
Just in the same way that, you know, many agencies are specialising in this area, in different areas, you see that, you know, segmentation a bit like, look, I can see Christian Byfield's just jumped on the Facebook page as well. He saw a niche, didn't he, at the end of the tenancy process, created an app on that. We're going to see much more of that, aren't we?
Yeah, and get on the depository, cracking tool that is. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is exactly that. It's exactly that. It's you're able to do something, focus on one thing. It's like we talk about it in business, although maybe not you and I. If you can focus on just one thing, you can just do it brilliantly. You can do it brilliantly. The challenge comes when you're trying to do a bit of everything, and you know that will continue for us undoubtedly. But certainly we see the future in specialist apps, and if we've been known for one thing in the industry for forever, it had always been around the accounting efficiency. So it made absolute sense to start there, and we'll see where that takes us.
Perfect. Well, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Challengers just asked what's your number. We're going to write out to everybody from there. Or as I said, you can book up on the book a demo link we're sending out as well. And to finish it off there, Ryan has just said that's a great deal. So our work here is done. Thank you,
my friend.
Thank you very much, our friends at
welcome
to us. And good luck with Agent Pay, and we'll look forward to keeping us updated as you go over the coming weeks and months.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Speak soon.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers, everybody.
The fact